The Porsche Panamera has been updated. We have all the new details here for you. And this is here today, the Porsche Panamera Turbo S in Mamba Green. More horsepower than before, and we'll also take it out to the racetrack. Please join us in Full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go. In the front, this recent Panamera facelift changed a little bit of this lower area for all models, so a little bit bolder from the design, and also the daytime running light and lower part has been modified a little bit. Here in the Turbo S you can see it has this double design here and it's also a little bit more stretched. The main headlamp unit here LED, different trims available there as well. The color for today, as I said, is Mamba Green, so very strong color. Of course, there are different nuances available, and indeed from the front it looks like a sports car if you haven't seen, this stretched side profile yet. So overall, of course, a minor change just from the visual part, just little notches. 5 meters 05, 16 foot 6 or 199 inches is the length of the short wheelbase version of the Panamera. And there's also the executive version, long wheelbase, which is then 15 centimeters or 6 inches longer, and for more legroom here in the rear. And there's also still the Sport Turismo, this so-called estate, which then continues right over a little bit more here. We also have a shot there for you, even available as a Turbo S, so in the different engine versions, just that the Sport Turismo is only available with all-wheel drive. And there's also, for example, the GTS available still, which has this more menacing look with dark wheels, for example. Here the Turbo S comes with everything they have. So 21-inch wheels, the biggest ones. There are also new designs here for the update in 20-inch and 21-inch. This also features directly the carbon ceramic brakes for even more non-fading performance, for example, on the racetrack. And indeed, you can take this car on the racetrack. It will be a blast, I can tell you. So keep on watching this review. And then you can see this typical, very fluent shape of the Panamera with very strong shoulders. And technology-wise, as I said, the Turbo S here packed with everything they have. So the adaptive air suspension is included in this one here. Then the new PDCC Sport, call this update here now. This is the anti-roll, anti-tilt control. The car is staying upright. They've tuned that and also reworked a little bit suspension settings, so the car is supposed to be even sportier, but without losing comfort. Is that true? We'll find out. And also rear axle steering is available, so at slower speeds it turns in the opposite direction than the front wheels, at higher speeds in the same direction for more stability. And this is again a standard feature then for the Turbo S. But then of course the Turbo S is also double the price of a base Panamera. In the rear, the light strip here now goes all the way from left to right, also aligning with the recent newer Porsche models. So this has been updated, also made more three-dimensional, more sculptural. So definitely fitting to the vehicle. The Turbo S also gets the foldable wing that also goes up to the side. So looks quite impressive, but I think it looks better when it's like this, just more elegant integrated design. Then a new diffuser has been used right here, and new sports exhaust for all V8 models. So the Turbo S, of course, and the GTS is also the V8 model, so it will also get the sports exhaust, because they said, we know when they put some filter technologies to it now, they still wanted to have a nice sound now. So what they did is to make the sound from the left to the right side a little bit different, so it sounds, let's say, more three-dimensional also when the car is passing by. You already heard some shots in the intro. Would you say it worked? Tell us in the comments. Engines, it's all about more horsepower in this facelift. It will start with the base engine 2.9 liter V6 bi-turbo, which will then also be the base for the new 4SE hybrid, then with 560 horsepower, so a horsepower upgrade for that as well. And then the V8 models, for example the GTS will get the V8, and also this one here, the Turbo S, pure ICE 4 liter V8 bi-turbo engine. In this case then 630 horsepower now, 820 Newton meters of torque, and 3.1 seconds is the acceleration figure to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour. That's 0.3 seconds faster than the so far top model. But make no mistake, it's not that they cancelled their hybridization top hybrid strategy now. They will later also again be the Turbo SE hybrid once again. And so overall they will have 3 hybrids then in their total lineup. But definitely a lot of choices. Of course, no diesel anymore. Porsche abandoned these. And definitely still a focus on the hybrids, although we have here the strongest pure combustion engine for today. Car key, slim and light, but really premium. And also these muscular shoulders that are formed at the sides. Then either press here to open or keyless entry also, on the outside to close it, on the inside here to open the vehicle. We also have the contrasting black handles here in this case. First of all, door closing sound, really solid, but this car is also equipped with the soft close. Magic. So then inside of the doors, and we have a contrasting scheme here, dark at the top, bright at the bottom. Yeah, this black panel, you see it looks sleek, but you know, when scratches or fingerprints, then not anymore. Nice clicking sound. Levers here for the windows. The door pockets are quite slim. This here is equipped with the Bose sound system and Panamera Turbo S entry badge as well. And here once again we have this contrasting, the dark on the top, because this is also creating less reflections. For example, when it would be bright it would look cool, but definitely more reflections in the windscreen, and the lower part then here in the bright again. This is then how to ignite the vehicle. So like this. There's also this comfort entry function, depending on how you have set everything, that the, for instance, the steering wheel goes up and the seat goes back and so on. Here we also have the microfiber steering wheel, which I really recommend to have a great grip always, and it feels cozy in winter. Yet again, it's also good in summer for the grip. And there's a heated function, you hear it here behind it. There's the button for the heated steering wheel just behind the steering wheel. It's actually a nice position, you just have to know that. And there's nothing better than the heated microfiber steering wheel when it's really, really cold in winter. It's perfect, really. Driving mode selector here at the steering wheel, and the steering wheel has been reworked with the facelift. You can, for example, see now you have, like in the 911 or in the Taycan, these updated jog wheels. So they control then the digital instruments, and on the left side the same here then for the volume, and this is definitely easier to control. So I think it's a sleek design here also with this, real screw design. At the same time, easy to control volume and also the instruments, and then also with the drive mode selector, which you can easily do while driving. Shifting pedals also, they are very crisp and nice to use. And soon we'll also give you more details about the instruments and the infotainment screen. First of all, the seats. For the Panamera, you get either a base seat, which is a little bit more open, or then you get a sport seat, which has this additional shoulder support right here. In the GTS, you can also get Alcantara on the middle part. That would be the owner solution, which contains less animal skin. So far, the Panamera lineup is not that good in this respect. I talked to the boss of the model line, and he said he is also realizing more and more demand for animal-free solutions, so they are looking into that, but did not implement that in the facelift yet. So far, GTS model for Alcantara, or then you have to go for the Taycan for totally animal-free interior. However, comfort-wise, for the seat form, this is also what this car is about, that you have, for example, way more comfort than in a 911, for example. And the seat form itself, you sit low, so it reminds you of sports vehicles. Yes, yet at the same time you have more space. And here the steering wheel can be moved up and down and in and out electric way, and you can find a very nice seating position even if you're quite tall, 1.86 or 6'1". And this is here plenty of headroom, and look at that. I mean, this bright Alcantara ceiling, wow, this is really amazing. Although we don't have the panoramic roof here, which would be an option, this brings so much light in the interior. It looks cozy, like a living room atmosphere, looks premium. And look at that, even here the handles, you know, the inside handles are covered with Alcantara and having like a strengthening in the middle. So then they're also dampened from the inside, you know, and of course this is also dampened when they go back. So this would be something for when you drive a little bit racier here as a driver, which is totally possible with that car. You should check it out in the racetrack part. Then as a co-driver or passenger, we always say co-driver here, we use the ready speech intentionally. Then it really feels good to grab that handle and hold tight. Now the interior overview, and as we know from Porsche with the horizontal stress, definitely right here and here, very clean design. Also again with the analog clock there in the top part, there's also a new design for that available right now. Here then the microfiber steering wheel, you should definitely get that, as I said, really nice grip, and it's really a clean design. However, you still have all the controls you might possibly need. Soon more details to these instruments, which are digital on the side and analog one in the middle part. And on the right side we have the widescreen format here. The software has been updated, also the map data and so on. So slight updates here with the facelift for that. Soon we'll also go in detail what you can do with that. Then in the lower part you don't have, you know, too many physical buttons. You do have still some left, like a control knob right here. For example, you can zoom in and out with that in the map. That's possible. The volume here, for example, is then in this case not controlled with that, but with another jog here below that. Not sure if you can see it at the moment on camera. But here then this nice metal knurling also for the AC unit, good to control it while driving, for example. And everything else is, yeah, touch sensitive, capacitive buttons. It looks cool as soon as it's clean. But then of course collect some fingerprints here, for example, for suspension setting. And if you use the drive mode selector and the steering wheel, it also changes the suspension setting alongside. And there's a small cubby right there. It would otherwise be the smoker's package if you have that. And then the cup holders are somewhat adaptive. You either have it like integrated, also better for cleaning, for example, and then you can just push it in with the bottles, two different sizes. It was actually quite nice. And then you have this little strangely opening armrest here. But underneath, not too much space left. A little bit for your smartphone right there. USB-C charging there now. Inductive charging at the side. And that's it. And the infotainment right here, it's actually quite responsive. Here at the builds up like a racetrack for you here today. Good visualization. Main menu looks like this. You can also individualize that. My favorite menu is this always, the car menu. For example, when you put out the spoiler or put it in again for your friends. Then you can also see the visualization right there. And you see that the adaptive air suspension here, which is usually an option for the Panamera or comes automatically with the Turbo S. Also everything adjusts according to the driving modes. In the sports mode, for example, it goes down automatically and so on. And the climate unit can also be controlled here. For example, like where the vents are coming from. That you have to do in the menu right here. There's this hotkey menu here. You can also control where you want to have what. For example, if you want to have the CarPlay right, more in the upper part. There's the integration, and that's basically it. There's a split screen here. So I think it just works quite well. CarPlay is now also available wireless, but you can pick if you still want to have the cable or the wireless connection. And the Bose sound system, which is here, actually has a very good surround sound, really bass heavy. I also have one at home. I really like the sound because it's a very clear and let's say a pretty straightforward sound they do. However, sometimes you have to tune the bass a little bit down if you want to have more crystal clear sound and not such bass intensive sound. But of course that always depends on liking. You can of course change the settings here always. You have different modes also, how you want to have it. That's changes a little bit how you perceive it. Then of course you can also do more here, for example with the equalizer here for the bass and so on. Now a detailed look at the instruments. Once again, pretty cool. They have the analog RPM meter right there, and then left and right are screens. And on the right side you can change it up like this. Here also with the GPS map, for example. It will also appear when you just approach the next intersection, for example. That's a cool function. And here the all-wheel drive distribution, of course a rear biased all-wheel drive. And then you can just take a look at that while driving. The more you hammer it, the more power it will also give to the front wheels. And here at the steering wheel you can also then switch over to the left gauge, and then also have, for example, GPS input right there, or assistance systems information and so on. And I think, yeah, that's actually easy and straightforward. And the head-up display is always a nice option to have here with speed, current speed, and also some GPS arrow if you have a route set. Note that in real life they always look a little bit bigger and crisper than they might appear on camera. Now to the rear seating area, of course the same design as in the front, and even memory seating here for the rear seats. This is of course an option, and with the electric seats for the rear, you can see the controls there in the lower part. And in the sedan here of the Panamera, it would start with single seats. An option, you can pick the through bench if you want to have a third seating in the rear, and the Sport Turismo, the Estate, would start with a through bench, and there you can optionally go for the single seat setup. This looks more executive-like. You have these special controls and also digital controls for the climate unit. This of course looks really fancy. Yeah, of course it's not necessary, but what is necessary with the Porsche? Here it's not about what is necessary, but what is cool. So let's get inside here. And it's a long vehicle, and therefore we also have enough legroom here also when I have the seat as I would be driving. But of course it's clear that a car in this segment is not really like good packaging wise if you look at exterior-interior relation. And you fall a little bit backwards here with the bench, so you do have enough space here. Also electric control here of the length of the seat, for example, and also the back part of the seat, and with the electric control, for example, also electric lumbar support. I mean, you get along definitely, and it is in one way luxurious. Here headroom wise it still works, so you don't need a Sport Turismo for more headroom here. But I would not say it's the most comfortable position here in the rear. So for more comfort I would definitely, for example, prefer a Cayenne in the rear. Even a Macan is definitely more comfortable here in the rear. So it looks fancy, but I wouldn't, I wouldn't trade the rear seats for seating in the front in this case than here. But I can't get over the beauty of these handles here in the rear, these Alcantara covered handles. And again, well, yeah, probably I would just, just hold on tight to them just because they're cool. Like so cool handles, I just have to hold them all the time while driving, right? Here in the middle part, you can see you have these cup holders, and they are a little bit tricky. Like you can fold this up. By the way, here, USB supplies, 3 USB-C now, and then push this one, and it goes up a little bit. Then you have even more cup holder height. So, and then push it back again, that you can close this once more. And one more close up here, seat heating also in this console, and also nice clicking sounds here at the rear, also with the manual AC unit. And there's one button right here. This is for the rear shade, and that's a pretty fancy option, because when we go up here in the middle part, we have either, which one first, Jonas? This one, okay. There we go. Yay! That's nice, right? And this one would be the ski hatch, or you can have it just as a armrest with some space underneath. And yeah, I mean, you can enjoy also your executive life here when you're sitting here like, I really want to drive this car myself. For, as it stands here, 204,000 euros. 90k the entry price for the Panamera, 180 for the Turbo S, and here even more, 20-something K extra options in this very car. So yeah, that's the price of a supercar sedan in this case. Boot capacity is in both cases around 500 liters or 18 cubic feet, both sedan and Sport Turismo. They don't differ that much because it is measured here below the cover. The Sport Turismo has a little bit more height right here. And here in the sedan also you have this high loading sill right there. That's not that practical. However, so you can still very well use the trunk here, a little bit wider in the sides. Underneath here some of the sound equipment, and there's this, split. You can put this one down, just the middle ski hatch, and the other sides you have a 1/3, 2/3 or also 1/1/1, depending on what you like. And let's put a cabin trolley inside. You can see the dimensions here in a more practical way, and it also fits here in a vertical way, but not all the way up till the end. So we have to push it a little bit further in. So here, for example, even like this, probably then it will not close, just as a very practical test. Or let's see, that might still work, will it? No, will not. So here in a vertical way, push it like this, here, then it works. This is again an advantage then of the Sport Turismo. Measures here, the normal trunk length is 1.5 meters, and you have more space here, like 130, 135 right there, but the normal width right here in between this area, this is a little bit less. This is just 90 centimeters in width. That's not too much, and the height here below the cover right here would be about 40 centimeters, but then decreasing right here. Welcome to Thomas's Active Driving Lounge with the Porsche Panamera Facelift S, Porsche Panamera Turbo S. Here we're on the Bilsterberg racetrack, and we'll start with the launch control. We have an exclusive slot just for you. Launch control 3.1 seconds is the acceleration figure official. Let's see how it scores right here, and then we'll just hammer it on the racetrack. Let's go. Whoa, that was 170 kilometers an hour. Pretty impressive. Whoa, that happened. So there is also our instructor. And let's now hammer it here with the new facelifted setups. We're going to talk about the Panamera in general and also about the changes here. And of course also about this racetrack, which has a lot of topography changes here, just like in the center of Germany. Wow. Yeah, assistance system is still active. We're in the Sports Plus mode. Sports Plus mode means that the electronic stability control is drawn back, shifting is optimized, so the gears are turned up higher, and also the suspension is set stiffer. Adaptive air suspension in here, now set on a stiffer tone. Then the PDCC, this is this anti-roll, anti-tilt control, is updated in this facelifted version. That means even more active. Look at that. You can get the car also a little bit sideways. Have to counter steer a little bit. Now topography changes. Wow, and so much G-force is applied here. This is really crazy stuff. So the car keeps so straight. I mean, there's hardly any leaning at all. Then I have the rear axle steering, which helps me with lower speeds, with more agility, and at higher speeds with more stability. Now there's this incline, like at 200 kilometers or 125 miles an hour, and really getting the stomach pushed all the way down. Whoa, and look at that. I mean, how the car is stable and so agile, and it feels light, of course not as light as a sports car right in front of us. But the way this big sedan, and heavy sedan handles here on the racetrack is absolutely incredible. Like this, wow. And once again, almost 200 kilometers an hour, hard on the brakes. It's interesting that the sensors, they detect actually, the car in front of us there as well. So, wow, I mean, the acceleration out there is like, from the shifting and the power output, there would be no resistance at all. The torque is always there, always right there, from the 630 horsepower. And look at the steering. I don't have to steer that much. They have also updated the steering. So the hardware part, yes, and also the software part, the steering feel. So it's even more precise, even more progressive. You have to steer less. There's no dead zone area. One of the most perfect steering feelings I have felt so far. And you just have to see the degree angles of the corner I'm driving and what I'm doing with the steering wheel. It's really pretty much aligned. And even here going uphill, you do not feel in this vehicle that you're going uphill power-wise. If you're going uphill or downhill, it doesn't make no difference. The power is still always there. You know, pushing this car in the corner, a little bit of counter steer now in this S chicane. Look at that, wow. I mean, I'm really handling this car as it would be a light sports vehicle. So if you think about, oh, I'm going to buy a Porsche Panamera as a track car, yeah, why not? And that's the thing, you know. Of course, no one would actually do that, but the thing is that you can actually. That's the most extraordinary thing about this vehicle. And I've been driving this Panamera here on the racetrack a couple of times. We went on Vancouver Island with the Turbo S hybrid, for example. We went with the GDS in Bahrain Formula 1 racetrack. You can also check out these episodes later on. And here now this facelifted version. Indeed, what I feel is it's even more precise as for the steering. Suspension-wise, even more upgraded. The car stays more upright. It is on the one hand easier to handle, I would say, but at the same time it is more extreme as for the speed you can score. And that is also underpinned by this 7 minutes 39 lap time on the Nürburgring Nordschleife by Porsche Works driver Lars Kern. New lap record for this vehicle segment here. With this very vehicle we are driving, just a little bit, you know, modified with the sport seats and of course for safety. And yeah, I can just stress again, this is probably, I guess this is the sportiest big sedan overall. And yeah, once again, incredible what you can do with this vehicle. The Sports Plus mode, by the way, it does allow you to set the car a little bit sideways, yet at the same time you're not absolutely out of control. Here there's like a corner where you can really stress that. And I mean, in the front, our instructor, professional racing driver as well. Of course, I have no chance against him, but I don't feel that it would be the car, you know. I'm also an experienced racetrack driver, but of course no professional in this case, if you compare it to these guys. But still, I don't feel that it would be the car that is limiting me, you know. And they actually told us that about 5 years ago, the lap times that you could score with the Panamera would equal the one of the top 911 sports model, like GT3 RS or something. And that's of course something really, really incredible. Sound-wise, by the way, this new sports exhaust for the V8 models, updated also, that you get sound feedback like this. Also, even when there are these OPFs, these particle filters for the petrol engines. So I think you still have a nice and decent sound, although there's more technology for us, for breathing, for the environment as well. And one more here. Now I'll leave you with some more corners without comment, that you can just enjoy some driving impressions together with the sound. welcome to Thomas's normal driving lounge. Did you know that you can drive a Porsche Panamera Turbo S even street legal on roads and not only on the racetrack? Big news, right? Yeah, of course the reality is just the other way around. Probably no customer ever will use it on the racetrack, but we've shown you it is definitely more than possible. Starting with some countryside routes here alongside on the racetrack and then also drive outside. And this is really the thing about this vehicle, adaptive air suspension. And although 21-inch wheels are mounted, it's still fairly comfortable. Yet at the same time, with this new steering setup, even crisper. And you see here it's so precise from the steering. And you also have resistance, so it's not, quite a lot of modern steerings, they're just like moving through thin air, and they're sometimes direct, but they lack of feeling, and this really conveys a natural driving feeling. It's so cool. And here at slow speeds, I really feel the rear axle steering so much, so it fakes a shorter wheelbase, so to speak, and it feels so much more agile, especially when driving at slower speeds. This will help you so much when driving in the city, when parking in and out, easing in and out of a basement garage, and so on. So I think a very important feature for this long vehicle. And if it's not standard in a version you might have, then I would definitely go for this option. Always very good to have it. So right here, once again, with a nice grip also at the Alcantara steering wheel. And this car is not only fun on the racetrack, and it's really cool to do that. Oh, watch out. Thank you. So, but it's also just nice to relax in it, That's the thing about it. Just going a long way, have comfort by the seats. An SUV will have more upright seating position if you compare a Cayenne, for example, but this one here also with fairly comfortable seats, definitely. And you feel somehow both in this vehicle. You feel like you could drive it as a sports vehicle, but you could also feel that it would be a luxury sedan, and it is indeed both. That's what this car is about. One interesting gauge is the all-wheel drive distribution. So in most cases you have rear-wheel drive like almost only, and the more I put pressure on the throttle, the more power will also be sent to the front wheels right there. I have everything in my line of sight here with a head-up display, so it's the most thing I'm watching that, for example, for the speed. But the analog meter is so sexy that I tend to take a look at that also from time to time. And how the GPS is routing us also quite well done. You see it on the big screen. I see the arrows then, for example, in the head-up display. And I can also put the GPS then here on this right display. So this is also possible then. And usually in front of the next intersection, it should also switch then in this gauge. Let's see if it does that now. Usually it does, but probably there's an option in the infotainment system where I can also disable that. So in this case, it doesn't do it. I'm pretty sure it, but usually it did that. So you can switch it around. And when you're here, for example, just in normal driving mode, it is not a hard acceleration, and I'm just slightly on the pedal, very smooth, and this is already again 100 kilometers an hour. And this car kept so calm and collected and so on. And this is also the thing about this massive power. You don't have it that you always use it to the very max. You also have the high or big displacement that you can say you drive this car in a very sovereign way. You sometimes maybe even drive it slowly, but you have this power in the back of your mind. And when you want to accelerate a little bit more out, you don't have to wait for much shifting down. Here, for example, around 100 kilometers, around 60 miles an hour, and in the 7th or even 8th gear, but then slightly on throttle and directly shifting more like one or two gears back, but without this, annoying jump or something. So in a very, very smooth transition. At the same time, you can always use the shifting pedals. It's also fun to use. They give you a nice crisp feedback. You can shift down yourself, and then you also have a more spontaneous acceleration. Sound-wise, I think, they try to find a balance now between the new filter technologies and still nice exhaust sound. So they really paid attention to that. And of course, it might be the case that earlier cars sound more extreme, but I think they could bring back this life to the car a little bit, in this case. You should check out the Turbo S e-hybrid review we once did in Vancouver, on Vancouver Island. That was like, sound-wise, like, what's going on there? It's like is there a space rocket or something launching? Very interesting review that was as well. Assistance systems have been upgraded, so everything you do, like software-wise, you can always update with the facelift. So we have the adaptive cruise control here, for example, and we can set that. There's the blind spot monitor, which will appear then here in the side mirror when we have a car behind us, for example, at the motorway. Oh, stretch limo. Our limo is better, right? Yeah, but probably also more expensive than this one. Maybe like 4 times the price or something like that. And of course, you can always go to the sports mode, even just normal driving here, city, then transition to countryside, and flip, that's 100 once again. Nice sound, and just this pressure you can apply there, and it's really like you have some kind of a linear transition feeling between putting down the throttle and the car is going forward. It's like the way the throttle is being put forward, you feel that the car is moving forward. I hope you somehow get what I'm describing. There's no delay whatsoever in what's happening, and this actually can otherwise only be achieved with electric vehicles. Yes, that's of course the thing, that you need such a strong combustion engine to achieve that feeling of a rather linear power output of an electric engine, electric motor, we have to say then. So the only thing that would come close to it is probably then the Taycan, indeed. In the sports mode, suspension is then a little bit stiffer also, but yet again, you don't feel that it would be, too stiff or something. The roads are very good here, however, at the moment. In the sports mode, you feel that the reaction is a little bit closer to the road, definitely, but still, I think the compromise they found with this car is very good. The PDCC upgrade with the anti-roll control also works very well, no matter what you do, like here slalom-wise or so. The car remains upright, like in Germany we say sometimes like, liegt wie ein Brett auf der Straße. That was Germanish, right? So that's, our German viewers know what I mean. That's more like, when you put like a log or a bar of wood on the road and just move it, That's how, but not in a negative way, because that sounds uncomfortable. But it's like that with being comfortable at the very same time. And that's the thing about this vehicle. So about different drivetrains, this one here is of course the most powerful combustion engine. The GTS will have the same engine but with a little bit different horsepower tune. So this will also come close. What they did with the GTS setup, power curve wise, by the way, is very interesting, because back in the days the GTS models used to be naturally aspirated and therefore had like this power curve that gave you the most power at higher RPMs, like 4,000 RPM plus. They now took the same engine here, which is twin turbo or bi-turbo, and then applied this kind of naturally aspirated engine power curve to the GTS model. So this one here, the Turbo S, will drive more like a turbo, and the GTS, although being a turbo, will more drive like a naturally aspirated engine. I think quite interesting engineering piece, and why not setting it up in that way. And then as for the plug-in hybrid model, it really fits to the Panamera. The new plug-in hybrid will also feature a new 18 kWh battery with about 50 kilometers or 30 miles of pure electric range. So upgraded battery, upgraded pure electric range, and also performance. So this can be a good choice when you have like some taxation benefits, for example, or also you want to drive locally emission-free. More and more customers decide to go for the hybrid model, and since this is here also a sedan which can be moved in a calm, executive way, the pure electric driving really fits the Panamera. Yet at the same time, you have a lot of performance with the plug-in hybrid models. So if this one here is too expensive for you, which will be the most case, will be the case in most cases, you can easily go for one of the hybrids and have the hybrids. Actually, the plug-in hybrid has the best price-performance ratio overall. So this could be a thing. Or then again, probably I would go for the GTS to have even more some Alcantara on the seats, and you still got the same V8 engine you have then here. As for the fuel economy, yeah, that's of course all the thing about this engine. This could also be about the hybrid, because we experience it in the plug-in hybrid models that even when you have the battery depleted, the recuperation system in the Panamera is awesome. So even if the battery is depleted, it will bring down the fuel consumption, because you have still some electric moments, still gain back some energy, and where you can score, I think it's sometimes like some 7 liters on 100 kilometers. So really decent MPG figures as well in the hybrids. But here then, yeah, interesting by the way, when suddenly a corner gets a little bit more narrow than you would have expected. I mean, being in a big car, a big sedan, sounded to you like a surprise, but here, I hardly have to grab around the steering wheel. What awesome steering feeling this car has. Once again, from all cars, this one here now with the update, what a road is that? Right? Nice curvy roads, but that's also a great view now. So one of the best steerings ever now, definitely so much fun. So when you have a straight line, you just have to go slalom again. Yeah, and back to the fuel economy. So here at the moment, this was a trip with some acceleration, but I also took it rather slowly as well. Then we went a little bit uphill. Now we go a little bit downhill. But here with the Turbo S, even if you keep it really, really slowly and steady and so on, 2-digit liter figures on 100 kilometers are, you always have to count with that. So with some like 12-13 liters at least. So that's one of the downsides here, definitely. So the hybrid will be way more efficient. Again, as I said, even if you don't recharge that frequently, of course the PF makes more sense when you recharge frequently. So that's about different, engine orientation and so on, and also the base engine will also be just fine for the Panamera, of course. We took this model here because it had the biggest change in the model lineup, horsepower-wise. And at first I really thought that, they're replacing the top hybrid model once again with the pure ICE. That's not the case. The Turbo S e-hybrid will follow once again after that here. So when you watch this video, maybe after the release, at the later stage, like a year later or 2 years later, then probably the new model will already be out there for you, and we maybe already have the review, but at the recording of this video we don't have it yet. Here once again, just sport mode here for some intersection, but of course here in the town we want to keep it a little bit more calm, so you can also play with this special exhaust valve. Once again, it's really always a pleasure to drive with the Panamera, and since steering feeling is so important to me personally, I think I really have something from this facelift that this one was even a little bit tuned. It was good before, no doubt about that, but even better now, and of course especially in combination with the microfiber, with the Alcantara steering wheel, even more fun. So driving wise, I mean, it's not the most practical car, it's a super expensive car and so on, but driving wise, both racetrack and road driving comfort, there's hardly anything else that comes close to that in this combination. And now to our conclusion for today with the new Porsche Panamera. Today here the focus on the Panamera Turbo S. First things first, the driving dynamics of this vehicle, being a big sedan, really heavy, is just phenomenal. I could not believe, especially like on this track which has some tight corners and up and down topography, so sometimes we were thinking like, how is this possible that this car is able to do that? So really amazing, and here with this recent facelift, even more so a little bit crisper even in the steering than the chassis optimization, especially as for the suspension. This has also been significant here, so even straighter on the road. However, it did not lose any comfort. So this wide span between comfort and sportiness, even on the racetrack, this is what makes this vehicle so impressive, and in this respect I think also best in segment. Then exterior, not too many changes, just slight ones, a little bit more stronger that front. Interior changes, also just some and minor, but definitely some reasonable upgrades. You know that you also have, optimized infotainment system, for example. Steering wheel, I think with these jog wheels, I think also a little bit better than before. Yeah, and also a cool Alcantara steering wheel we have here for today. And a very nice inside Alcantara ceiling as well. However, as for seating materials and inside covering of dashboard and so on, a lot of animal skin used still. They did not change it for the facelift. The GTS does offer Alcantara on the seats, so that would be the only solution at this moment. For the next Panamera generation, they will definitely rethink that. We already talked about that with the designers, managers and engineers. The space you have on the inside is also quite okay. However, you have sufficient space, yes. However, considering the exterior length, it's not the best relation, but definitely still a very comfortable vehicle on all of the different seats. And also nice that you have the choice between the Sport Turismo, even more versatile in the trunk, and also the executive version if you want a little bit more wheelbase and also a little bit more space in the rear. Power upgrades mainly here for all of the engines. That's the main thing about this recent update. All the versions did receive more power, and they will also stay with this hybrid strategy. Because on top of this Turbo S, there will also again be the Turbo S e-hybrid. So this will get even more horsepower and also the hybridization. So overall 3 hybrids. And meanwhile, 2/3 of all Panamera sales in Europe, for example, are one of the hybrid models. So it's also widely accepted by the customers. So a lot of interesting impressions here today from the Turbo S Panamera. I hope you enjoyed it. Also tune into more versions of the Panamera. We have definitely very interesting videos, different hybrids. It's the pre-facelift versions, but also, for example, Racetrack and Bahrain. So you'll all find them here on our channels. Thank you so much for tuning in today. See you next time.